I've always had such great respect for Prevost. I've had the great pleasure to work with many of their sailors and many of their commanding officers over the years, and there's just something very special about that place. They're one of those units in the Navy and lean in. They're one of
Hmm.
these groups that lean in and just get things done. I had the pleasure just a few weeks ago to meet a sailor from Prevost, S2 Grace Park, who, she's a
Yep.
student, she's got a part-time job, and in the summers she goes off and she was on board a destroyer on board the Fredericton for the summer, serving her country and just fitting it all in, right? And ever so proud to be part of Prevost. And that's the good things that Prevost do for us. Another good thing that Prevost is doing, talk to me a little bit about a memorial that you're setting them up there.
Yeah, so it's HMCS Prevost, a number of years ago started this Battle of Atlantic Memorial. It's started off with some small thoughts, as of how do we honor those who came before us? How do we recognize, the contributions of the sailors from our area? Because when you think of Battle of Atlantic, you think of Halifax, and it's the convoy crossings and that. It all happened there, but so much of it came through. Like we built ships in the Great Lakes here for the Battle of Atlantic. The manpower, the men and women that served our country during that time. Canada's the world's longest battle, spanning from the start of the war to the end of the war, to keep those convoys going. So they started off with a memorial to the ships. So a stone marker for each of the ships lost. It's about 27 in total from Canada. So it's as a tribute. So how do we tell the story in some way, some fashion? So they built a really nice memorial to those ships, and that's probably about 2017, 2018. So it's very nice, nice landscaping, a nice spot to hold the Battle of Atlantic Memorial. To come together and remember, and to pay tribute to those who gave so much for the freedom that we enjoy today. So it's to fast forward to today. One of the components that was missing was the tribute to the individuals.
Okay.
So if you think about, it's my family and I were just in Normandy. So it's standing on the sand at Juno Beach. Thinking about those Canadians during D-Day. But then you can also go and pay tribute to them at the war graves. Mm-hmm. And it's an incredible moment that just puts into perspective the sacrifice. To see all of those headstones,
mm-hmm.
Row on row, it's the hundreds of Canadians, and that's just one small cemetery, multiple cemeteries throughout Europe to the Canadians. But if you think about the Navy, it's so many were lost at sea. There's no grave, there's no marker or stone to touch or to remember that name, that tribute to that individual. The sea is their grave.
Mm-hmm.
So the expansion, the significant expansion to the project, is the Walls of Honor. So it's building Walls of Honor to be able to list all of the names.
Wow.
It's close to 2,000 Royal Canadian Navy members that never came home, that have no marker, have no grave. To be able to create a permanent place that you can touch, see, feel, and pay tribute to all of those names of sailors lost, and to tell their story. So it's that's what we're building, and telling the story of the whole Battle of Atlantic. So the Navy, obviously, a huge component
mm-hmm.
of that story. But the Royal Canadian Air Force, 750 airmen were lost during the Battle of Atlantic, trying to protect those convoys. So we're paying tribute to them as well in a similar fashion, and of course. The Merchant Navy, so it's the Merchant Navy, the countless ships that were lost in those convoy crossings. It's slow-moving vessels carrying the cargo, munitions, food, the needs of Europe to keep them sustained. The sacrifices they made are incredible. So it's our memorial includes tribute to the Merchant Navy as well. So for the first time in Canada, is a whole Battle of Atlantic Memorial. Wow. Navy, Air Force, Merchant Navy, paying tribute and telling the story. In addition to that, if that wasn't enough already, is telling the history for the future. So there's an education component as well.
Okay.
So it's a virtual component where you can scan a barcode or pull up on your device a virtual sailor that tells their story. What it was like crossing the dark Atlantic on a convoy. It's trying to evade the wolf packs of subs, or a ship and what happened to it. So telling the history for future generations, so that Canadians continue to learn and don't forget about our history and the importance of what these men and women did so long ago.
Everybody's name.
Everybody's name.
It strikes me very similar to the memorial to the effort in Vietnam in Washington, where you can go up and you can
etch the wall.
And is that the goal there too?
That was one of our goals.
Right.
So Captain Sean Batty, former Prevost CO.
Yes.
It's a great leader of the initial memorial, and continues to be a great advocate and supporter of what we're doing today. Working with Mike, myself, and Ed Holder, and Heather Broadhead, and others to bring this to life. That was one of Sean's, exact things. It's got to be like I can rub my thumb across the name and feel the name or etch the name. So that's exactly what we're accomplishing.
Captain, when will Canadians be able to see this? When do you hope to unveil all of this?
So I have a hard stop, if you will.
Okay.
So I've committed to the commander of the Royal Canadian Navy, Vice Admiral Topshee, that our memorial will be ready, completed, finished, unveiled for Battle of Atlantic Sunday 2025.
Okay. Wow.
To mark the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Atlantic. So it's our intent is to hold the national ceremony for Battle Atlantic Sunday to recognize the 80th anniversary of the battle next May. So the memorial has to be ready. We intend to break ground here late September, early October, to get the components in and in place before the winter comes.
Right.
So that we're ready for that first Sunday in May.
How can Canadians help with this effort? Do you need help with this effort? And how can Canadians lean into it?
Yeah, so the greatest way Canadians can help is of course, an endeavor like this takes money.
Right.
It's there's resources behind it and great support that we have, but it takes money. So donations are extremely welcome.
Okay.
And folks can donate through our website, www.boamemorial.com.
Okay.
So there's ways to donate through that webpage. We have a great challenge coin that folks could buy for $100, essentially $100 donation.
Right.
We'll get you a tax receipt and a coin.
Cool.
And it's the coin is brilliant. It's an individual who actually designs coins for the Royal Canadian Mint. Really? Is involved. Yeah. So it's and because this is, if you think about this isn't London or Prevost's memorial. This is Canada's memorial. It's a national memorial. So we're trying to pay tribute on a national scale. So Canadians across the country want to help and support. That's the best way they can do it.